Hey everybody. Well, I haven't done one of these in a long time. How y'all doing? I don't know if anybody, it's Saturday night. I don't know if anybody will be watching live. Some people will probably have lives and be too busy. But obviously this will get uploaded to YouTube after and so forth. I'm going to try to make this relatively quick because I'm in the Walmart parking lot. I need to go into the store and get a couple of things. And then I need to get home because Jenny's going to be making dinner and she's an excellent cook. I'm very lucky. But it's been on my mind all day. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make a quick video and just explain something because people have been asking me. No, this is not about the Supreme Court decisions that were handed down this week, although that is a lot to dig into. We will dig into that in the near future on the show, by the way. We are off this coming week, July 4th week. We're off for the whole week. It will be best of episodes. I've got a fresh batch of best ofs of Matt Connarton Unleashed, and then we will be back live on July 10th, and I promise we'll start digging into all the Supreme Court stuff. But no, so this is about something different. This has to do with just people have been asking me about some recent drama that happened with another host. Not at WMNH, of course. We all get along. It's a wonderful family. But and I want to tell everybody right up front, that's what this video is about, this drama that I'm just going to explain because people are confused. They are perplexed. I'm a little bit perplexed myself. So I figured out, you know what, I'll explain it to everybody as best I can. And like I said, I'll try to do it briefly. But the reason I want you to know up front that that's what this is about is, look, when it comes to all that kind of drama and stuff, some people are really fascinated by it and really get into it. Some people are just sort of mildly curious. And some people actually hate that stuff and don't want to know anything about it. So in case you happen to fall into that third category, I figure I'll save you some time. That's what this is about. So if that isn't interesting at all to you, then this video is not for you. But here's the thing. So Tom Gulley, I had called into his show. He's back doing his YouTube thing. He does the Tom Gulley show. By the way, I respect Tom. Tom has a legitimate radio career. He's done a bunch of things in radio and worked for some different radio stations around the country. But currently he's just doing his show. He's back doing his show on YouTube, the Tom Gulley Show. Check it out. I don't mind plugging it, even though he's mad at me and even though he's being very, very mean. But you probably thought I was going to talk about Crazy Joe when I mentioned drama with another broadcaster, but Joe's never been a legitimate radio broadcaster ever in his life. So no, I'm talking about Tom Gulley. Just some quick backstory, how I know Tom. So a number of years ago, I think it's been like 4 years now. God, where does the time go? I started getting prank calls on Matt Connarton Unleashed from a gentleman named Chris James. Now, Chris, of course, from Not Even a Show, or now the branding is just NEAS on YouTube. Great stuff. Chris and I became friends and love what he does. I subscribe to his Patreon. It's only $5 a month. It's well worth it. Lots of great content. Jenny really likes him as well. Everybody loves Chris. He's like one of my favorite Canadians. You got William Shatner, you got Bret the Hitman Hart, and you've got Chris James. No, I love Chris. But when Chris first started calling my show, the pranks were a little aggressive, but then we became friends when he realized our politics were kind of in line. And also, I may be one of the only radio hosts in the entire United States who's on FM radio who actually enjoys prank calls. But I do. As long as they're creative and funny and they have a point. I do, and I'll go with the bit, let's roll with it and see what happens. So Chris started calling me, and the way that I figured out who he actually was and what he was up to is a great story in and of itself, but I've already told that many times. So, there was another host who Chris was calling, and that host was Tom Gulley. Chris had been calling Tom, and they also became friends. And so they became friendly. So that's how Tom and I met, was because of Chris James and Not Even a Show. So then Tom and I became friendly because we were fellow green hosts. See, Chris has this rating system for his hosts. There's red hosts who are bad. There's yellow hosts who are okay, undecided, and then there's green hosts who are good. So we're the good guys. Chris likes us. So we became fellow green hosts. I'm the original green host, by the way. I'm the very first green host. So Tom and I would call each other's shows and so forth. So that's how I met Tom Gulley. This goes back like 4 years. So then, now, going way back, I've been a fan of a guy named Mike David, who does a podcast called Red Bar Radio. And I've been a fan of his for 12, 13 years. Love Mike David. In fact, Mike David, even though he's younger than I am, I can say he's kind of influenced my on-air persona somewhat. So I've been a fan of Mike David for a long time. And he trolls other content creators. He calls them fools. That's his name for them, the fools, people he trolls. So I've been a big Mike David fan for a long time, but through being a fan of Mike David, I got to know some of the other people in his orbit, or know of them. One of them being Patrick Melton, who coincidentally happens to be a nemesis of Crazy Joe. So I guess Crazy Joe does figure into the story in that one tangential way. It's a small world, right? But another individual who I got to be aware of through in Mike David's orbit was Jesse P.S. From Pod Awful. Oh, Dave Wally is watching live, and so is Miriam Banish. Hello. I got to be a fan of, not a fan. I got to be aware of Jesse P.S.'s content and Pod Awful because I was such a fan, because Mike David, they would... Jesse seemed to be, at the time, a big fan of Mike David as well. And they were sort of in each other's orbits, so to speak. But mainly I was a fan of Mike David. But I became aware of Jesse P.S. and his show, Pod Awful, and I'd checked it out a couple of times. And then I'd kind of forgotten about it. So then a couple of years ago, I'm online and I see in my YouTube feed a video involving Red Bar and Mike David, where apparently he had a falling out live during his show with Jesse P.S. They had some sort of argument. And I was like, oh yeah, the guy from Pod Awful. Oh, this is interesting. So I checked out the video, and apparently they had a falling out. They were accusing each other of stealing each other's content, ripping each other's bits off, and so forth. And because Jesse was doing something similar to what Mike David was doing, where Jesse on Pod Awful, he also trolls people, but he calls them goons. Mike David calls them fools. Jesse calls them goons. So I was like, oh, they had a falling out. So then I get curious about that kind of thing, because I actually like that kind of drama. So I'm poking around and I'm trying to figure out, well, have they been ripping each other off? What's going on here? So then I started checking out some of Pod Awful. And in the course of doing that, I realized that one of the goons, as Jesse calls them, that he had been trolling on Pod Awful was none other than Tom Gulley, the host that I'd met, the other green-rated host that I'd met through Chris James and NEAS. I was like, oh, small world. So then the next day on my radio show, I brought it up. I said, yeah, by the way, our friend Tom Gulley, because Tom had been calling my show, showing up in the chat room. I said, I happened to find out that Tom has been getting trolled by Jesse P.S. from Pod Awful. And then I started talking about Chris James and how, I started talking about Mike David, too many characters to keep track of. I started talking about how Mike David, who I'm a big fan of, had a falling out with Jesse P.S. and so forth. So I kind of talked about all that for a little bit on the show. And how Tom Gulley was apparently one of the targets of Jesse P.S. and how I thought that was interesting. Then I decided, so something that I've always done with the show is sometimes if a particular segment is particularly interesting, sorry, I use the word particularly twice, I try not to be redundant, I will clip that and post it on YouTube as a standalone clip. Multiple reasons to do that. One is to try to generate more interest in the show. It's also good to do that on social media, social media, it improves engagement and so forth. And, so there's a number of reasons. And then I use those clips later when I have to produce a best of edition. It makes it easy to just, okay, I'll just grab this clip and that clip and put them together. So there's a few reasons to do it. But I ended up making a clip of me talking about Jesse P.S. and Mike David and Tom Gulley and from when I had talked about that on the show. And I posted that on YouTube. Now, I've never mentioned this or really revealed this, but I kind of did have an ulterior motive for doing that. I wanted to get somebody's attention. I wanted to get Mike David's attention, and I made sure to include him in the title. I put all three. I put Mike David, Jesse P.S., and Tom Gulley. I put them all in the title. I wanted to get Mike David's attention from Red Bar because I wanted to be, and this might sound strange, but I was hoping to become one of the fools. I was hoping that he would see my show, think it was ridiculous, think I was horrible, and then start trolling me. Now, why would I want that? Well, because I actually think that stuff is kind of fun and interesting, and I'm not afraid to laugh at myself. And if someone wants to make fun of me, I'm perfectly fine with it, especially if it brings more attention to my radio show and the other content that I create. I'm not thin-skinned. You can make fun of me. I mean, I'm the guy who actually enjoys when people prank call my show. So I was like, it's kind of like, if you go to see a stand-up comedian and it's someone who does a lot of crowd work where, they'll kind of find somebody in the audience to engage with and maybe make fun of them. It's like, yeah, it might be in the moment a little embarrassing and, you're being kind of picked on in front of a whole room full of people, but it's also kind of fun. That's just how I look at it. Like, I'm such a fan of Mike David, I would actually be honored to be one of the fools. And if he during his podcast, started making fun of me, I would be in my glory. I'm a little different that way. Most people, especially in the world of podcasts and content creation and radio hosts, most people are very thin-skinned and, why is somebody picking on me? Not me. I bring it on. I love it. I love a good podcast feud. That would be pretty one-sided though. I wouldn't be actually feuding with Mike David if that had happened. I would be one of his fools and I would be taking all kinds of abuse. And I would be fine with it and enjoying it, to be honest with you. So I was hoping to get his attention. I didn't get his attention when I posted that clip. You know whose attention I did get? Jesse P.S. from Pod Awful. He contacted me and said, hey, can I... basically what he told me was he blamed Tom Gulley for having his YouTube channels removed from... he thought Tom had complained and had Pod Awful's content removed from YouTube, and he was very angry with Tom over that. He wanted to come on the show and talk about it, and I'm like, well, okay. Wow, this is Jesse P.S. from Pod Awful. He's like internet famous. This will be good for my show. And it was good for my show, because, then I posted I post all the stuff on YouTube. The social engagement goes way up. My numbers are up. Everything's good. Well, not everyone was happy. Tom Gulley was very upset. Now, during my conversation on the air with Jesse P.S., I said to him, listen, I consider Tom a friend. I really like Tom. So, you're airing out your grievances here on my show. That's cool. You're telling your side of things, but I like Tom. I tried to make that clear and kind of stick up for Tom a little bit. But apparently that wasn't good enough for Tom Gulley. So Tom, at that point, I guess, decided that he hated me and he blamed me for everything. And I became, from my perspective, the scapegoat for all of the problems that Tom had felt were brought on him by Jesse P.S. And Jesse and I had an off-air conversation where I said to him, I really do think Tom's a good guy, and I wish that he had more of a sense of humor about himself, because you trolling him has driven up his numbers tremendously on YouTube, and it's clearly only helped him. I wish that he understood. See, what people don't get is when you have conflict like that, especially in the world of podcasters and content creators fighting with each other, if you play it right, everyone benefits. It's just like the old, nobody really does it anymore because now everyone's afraid of getting sued. But there was a time when it was not unusual for radio stations to feud with each other. And I've heard some great stories over the years. Now nobody does that because everyone's all uptight and nervous. But radio stations used to feud, and radio shows, morning radio shows competing in the same market would feud with each other. It was great stuff. Now that's moved all online in the world of podcasting. But if you play it right, everyone gets something out of it. So if everyone could stop taking themselves quite so seriously, and just go with the bit, even if it looks like you're the one getting your ass kicked, so what? Your numbers are going up. People are paying attention to you. You're bringing in new people. So that's how I looked at it. And I told Jesse, I said, it's too bad Tom doesn't see that. But apparently Tom decided that he hated me and I was to blame for everything. I ruined his life. And he ended up leaving, and he was very mean to Jenny, too, which I didn't like, Hate me if you want, but don't be mean. That's like my one rule. Don't be mean to Jenny. Because Jenny tried to be nice to him, and he rebuffed her and insulted her, and just, I don't know. Anyway. So that was like 2 years ago. And then Tom stopped doing his show, and I don't know. He didn't seem that into it to begin with, but he stopped doing his show. So that was more than 2 years ago. So then this week, what was it, Monday night or Tuesday night? I see on my YouTube feed, actually, I'm sorry, Jenny sent me the message because I wasn't home yet. I think I was still at the station. Jenny messages me with a link. Tom Gulley Show is live right now on YouTube. I was like, oh my God. So I click it on and I'm listening to it, and Tom has a guest all of a sudden. Well, guess who the guest is? Jesse P.S. from Pod Awful. And so I'm like, wow, this is fascinating. I never expected this. And I'm listening to it. And it started off a little tense at first. And they talked about the whole thing. Jesse blaming Tom for getting his YouTube channels yanked. And, because that directly affects Jesse's livelihood. Some people, that's how they make their living, is on YouTube. So they talked about all that. And Tom still denies that he had anything to do with that. But as time goes on, it gets friendlier and friendlier to the point where they seem to be becoming friends, and they're all chummy, and they're laughing together, and they're doing bits and all this. I was getting tired listening to it. They were on together for so long, I couldn't stay up anymore. I had it playing on my computer while I'm doing my other work. And finally, I had to go to bed. I get up the next day, I go and look. They were on for 8 hours. Tom Gulley and Jesse P.S. were on together streaming for 8 hours. And I went back and I kind of scanned through some of it, and, oh, they're having a great time. They're like best friends now. They're buddies. And I thought, well, this is really cool, actually. I'm glad that this happened. I'm glad that they're cool with each other. This is good. This is positive. And I also thought, oh, silly me. I thought, well, you know what? If they're cool and they're all chummy, then Tom can't possibly be mad at me anymore, right? I mean, what would he have to be mad at me about? He's obviously cool with Jesse. So then, the next night, Tom Gulley Show goes live. I see the notification right after I had gotten off the air at WMNH. I see the notification. I say, you know what? I'm going to call. So I waited. I waited until he got done doing his opening bit, and he mentions the phone number. So I call, and this is the clip. I posted this on YouTube, and this is what people have been asking me about. Matt, what's going on here? Why is he so angry with you? So I call, and he immediately, I said, hey, I was friendly. I said, hey, Tom, welcome back. I'm glad you're doing your show again, or something like that. It's Matt Connarton. And he swears at me and immediately hangs up. I won't say what he said. I try to keep it clean for the kids. Charles Richardson says, 8 hours, what the hell? I can hardly listen to Tom for 8 minutes. I can't imagine talking to somebody for 8 hours, but I'm an introvert. We get mentally fatigued if we talk to the same person for too long. I couldn't even do what Joe Rogan does with these 3-hour conversations that he has. I couldn't do it. So yeah, I called Tom. I'm thinking we're cool. He's cool with Jesse P.S. from Pod Awful. How could he possibly be mad at me? So I call him. Swears at me and hangs up. So I wait a few minutes. I call back. I'm like, and I said to him, Tom, you can't possibly still be mad at me. And you and Jesse are cool, right? And he goes, well, what makes you think Jesse and I are cool? I said, because you did a live stream with him for 8 hours. And he ended up hanging up on me again. And then he's like, no, Jesse and I aren't cool now. You shouldn't think that. Listen, I mean, if I'm a nice guy, I don't ever mean to hurt anybody's feelings. So Tom, if you see this, if I hurt you, I'm sorry. But dude, because you know what else he said to me? Here's what he said to me during that second call where he actually did let me get in a few sentences before he hung up. He called me spineless. He said something about, I don't want to talk to a spineless dweeb like you. Now, I know what he means, because this is the same kind of thing he said to me before when he got so mad at me. He thinks I'm spineless because I actually had Jesse P.S. on my show, and I shouldn't associate with him because, you know. And by the way, look, Jesse is controversial. Some of his stuff I think is really funny. Some of it I'm like, whoa, okay, that's too far, and I would not go there. So, I appreciate some of his content, but some of it I don't. But, you know, but we get along. I mean, we're friendly. And he's always been nice to me. It's funny, I said to Jesse, I think this was an off-air conversation I had with him. I said, yeah, how come nobody ever trolls me? You know, because I was trying to get Mike David to troll me before, and Jesse said to me, Matt, the problem is you want people to troll you, so nobody will troll you because you actually have a sense of humor about it and you won't get mad. You'll enjoy it, which takes the fun out of it for the person doing the trolling, because the person doing the trolling is trying to provoke a reaction out of you and you think it's funny to be trolled, so it makes it impossible to troll you. I said, yeah, I understand. It is a strange irony. Like, I actually want people to make fun of me so no one makes fun of me. But, yeah, I just, so that's what he meant by spineless, because I actually am nice to Jesse and I had him on my show, and Tom didn't think I should have. At least I assume that's what he meant. But I would just say to Tom, if Tom happens to see this, and I'll make sure his name is in the title when I put it on YouTube, he'll see it. Tom, you spent 8 hours with a guy on a live stream, laughing, joking, just having a grand old time with a guy who before you were so upset with and so offended by, and whom you feel had just ruined your show. But I'm the one who's spineless? I mean, you're the one who, I mean, you remind me of, you're like Mike Pence. You're talking about Trump, like, you know, in one breath, Mike Pence will say something like, yeah, you know, President Trump, he put my family in danger that day on January 6th, my wife and my daughter's in danger. And then in the very next breath, he's putting on his knee pads and supplicating himself to Trump and, you know, talking about how honored he was to be his vice president and how much he loves him. You know, that is spineless, right? That is, I've talked about that on the show. I mean, that guy, Jesus Christ. That is spineless. How are you any different, Tom? You were so mad at Jesse PS. And then you do an 8-hour stream with him. And don't give me this bullshit about, well, that doesn't mean we're cool now. Dude, I listened to that. Not the whole 8 hours. God, hell no. But I listened to enough of it. You're definitely cool with him. And you guys, listen, you guys had great chemistry. What I heard was really good. You guys should do a show together. I'm serious. And I know I'm not the only one who has said that to you. I know that for a fact because I heard other people saying it. You guys seem to get on great. So you're clearly not mad at him, and you will take his call. You will take his call and you'll hang out with him for 8 hours. But you're still mad at me. It doesn't make any sense, Tom. So listen, Tom, if you see this, I wish you the best. I have no problem with you. You accused me of, you said, when I called back that second time, you said you didn't want to talk to me because I was just, I was up to something or whatever. I honestly wasn't. I like you, Tom. I've always liked you. Kind of miss having you call into the show. Is there something I don't know about? Because, again, your problem was with Jesse PS and the Pod Awful cult. I just happened to stumble into that whole thing. So, why you would still be so angry with me? You can't even stand the sound of my voice, apparently. But you'll spend 8 hours with Jesse and just having a grand old time. Don't give me that. I don't want to hear that. Oh, well, we're not cool now. Why would you think that? Why would I think that? I know what I heard. Yeah, it was a little tense at first, but you got past it and you're making each other laugh. And like I said, it was very good. You guys have real chemistry. You're clearly not mad at him anymore. You're over it, but you're not over it with me. It doesn't make any sense, Tom. If there's something else I've done that's offended you, I'd like to know, but whatever. I mean, this will be the last I'll say about it, but I just find it really interesting, Tom Gulley, that you would call me spineless because I had him on my show, but then you'll do a live stream with him for 8 hours, but I'm still some sort of villain in your world. It's baffling to me. But I hope you'll change your mind at some point. I do, because I still like you. I don't understand your behavior. I don't understand why you were such a dick to me when I called. I was being sincere, Tom. I had no ulterior motive. I genuinely, I swear to God. And why would I be lying? I don't do the whole trolling thing. I leave that to the pros. I don't do that. So why would I be doing that? I was calling to try to reconnect with you because I saw an opportunity to do it. That's it. Oh, Charles says, you on Monday? No, Charles. We are on our summer break. It's only for 1 week, but next week we are on our break, and then we will return on July 10. So, live. So it will be best of editions running all next week. Brand new best ofs. So, there you go. All right, that's my story. I just wanted to explain because people have been asking me the whole Tom Gulley thing. Check him out. I'm not mad at the guy. I'm just baffled. I'm genuinely perplexed. But, yeah, the Tom Gulley Show. He's on YouTube. And, hey, listen to the episode he did with Jesse PS, his new best friend. Listen to some of it. Don't listen to the full 8 hours. I don't know how anyone can do that. But check it out. I mean, it's good. It's good. They play off of each other. But here's the thing, though. I don't ever, this is the main thing I want to say. For Tom, I want to say this to Tom and anybody else who wants to judge me for having anything to do with Jesse, for having anything to do with Pod Awful. And I understand some of the stuff I don't like either. And some of it I do. Some of it's Jenny and I watched, we won't get into it. But I think Jesse's evolved, actually, to be honest with you. And Anyone who wants to make any judgments about me associating with him. What about Tom? What about you, Tom, and your 8-hour marathon love fest with that guy? You have no room, dude, to be judging me about anything. I had him on my show and we talked. I didn't do an 8-hour live stream with the guy. Just saying. Beyond that, I probably won't speak about this again, except I did get a very interesting message on Facebook from someone earlier. Not someone I've ever mentioned before. It's not someone I know, but I don't know. It may not be the last time I speak of this. I got something today very interesting. I don't know. I don't know quite what to make of it. So I'll leave it at that. All right. Everybody enjoy your Saturday. I got to get in there and pick up some things. If you're just joining me, I'm not in glorious downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. I'm actually in the parking lot at Walmart in Hooksett, New Hampshire. But I've been thinking about it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and address this. And I hope Tom sees it. Tom, I want you back in my life, but we have to have an understanding. You have to take my call when I call your show and don't swear at me and hang up and don't judge me, because judging me makes you a hypocrite, sir. And I know you're not. You're better than that. You're better than that, Tom Gulley. Miriam in the chat room says, is it a chat room? I mean, it's on my phone. Anyway, Miriam says, hi, Miriam. She says, I have trouble keeping up in situations where two people I know get upset with each other, so often end up with people angry with me for not getting it, LOL. No. Well, that's why I'm explaining, Miriam. I don't want to. But Tom Gulley probably is angry at you about something, and I don't think he even knows you. But if you call this show, he'd probably, if he senses that you know me, he'll probably swear at you and hang up. So it would probably better to leave him alone. Eric Street is in here. He says, remember that called Plank? He was funny. Oh, that caller, Plank. Yes, I do remember that. Yes, I do. We've had some great calls. I might be the only FM radio host in the entire United States who actually enjoys prank calls, because they often lead to really cool things, like with Chris from Not Even a Show, you know? As long as they're creative and funny, I'll go with the bit. I'm there to play. I have no problem with it. As long as the only thing I don't like is if somebody calls up and they start swearing, because then I have to dump the audio and I have to hang up, and it's like, what was the point of that? That I don't like. But, geez, we had Huey the Gecko on, not the one we did with Huey yesterday, but the first time he was on and played live, and, the Pod Awful cult was, calling. And that was actually really funny. That was a lot of fun. And Huey the Gecko has a fantastic sense of humor, and he was willing to roll with it and didn't get mad or anything. He thought it was pretty funny too. So, all right, I gotta go. Good night, everybody. I hope that clarifies things. And Tom, I hope you see this. Love you. Don't be mad. Let's be friends. But don't blame me for. It was 2 years ago, dude. Let it go. Jeez, I can't even imagine. What a weird thing to even hold a grudge over. This podcast stuff. You know, life is too short, man. Especially for you. You're older than me. Just kidding. All right. I mean, he is older than me. All right.